So in this big 2025 age, well, not age, but it's still age. In this big 2025 age, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We still have ancient people trying to perpetuate racism, but they're not man enough or woman enough to do it to grown individuals, so they have to do it to children. You don't know what I mean? Check this video out.
They adopted and fostered African American children so that they could torment them and use them as their own personal SLAVES. Let's talk about these pieces of shits. This is Brian and Jill Griffith, 47 and 41, and their son and daughter, Dylan and Liberty Griffith. And they were arrested this week and charged with aggravated CA after a concerning tip came from a church member. This all came to light when one of the older adopted children came to a church camp.
If y'all don't know what CA is children assault, I want to say. Child abuse. Sorry, child abuse.
With a taser. At first, these pieces of shits tried to claim it was a toy, but it was discovered it was not. A follow-up visit with the woman who first made the report with DCF said she was concerned about how their children were treated because most were illiterate and did not know the basic information such as their last name. She was concerned that these pieces of shits were adopting or fostering the children to use them as their own personal workers. When authorities showed up to do a home visit, Jill would not let them in the home. When she realized DCF wasn't going to go away, she reluctantly let them in the home and let the children be interviewed, but only if her husband was present. DCF noted that while there, of the 9 children, 5 of which were their biological children, the biological children were watching TV and playing video games, while the adopted children were doing housework and chores. While being interviewed with the DCF worker, the children did not know basic information such as their birthdays, and Jill would either correct them or have to look up information on her phone before she finally shut the interviews down, saying she needed to consult her lawyer. When DCF realized that there was a 10th child, a foster child that was unaccounted for, they asked the parents where she was, and they claimed that she had never been to Florida, that she was in Arizona, where they had moved from. But that was found to be untrue. She had been to Florida until sometime in 2024 when she called her biological mother and begged her biological mother to come and get her. The Arizona woman relayed allegations of at least one adult in the home committing SA against at least one child. Another section of the documents state that Brian Griffith, the father, allegedly beat the foster and adopted children with a cane, but was careful not to leave a mark.
So in this big age of 2025, we have people who don't got no, but basically ain't shit people. You can't do it to the grown-ups, so you're gonna find kids to do it to and not be smart enough to think that these kids are gonna grow up eventually. Like, I don't care how some people think. You can think somebody's gonna be stupid forever, but they're not gonna be stupid forever. And then when the tables turn, you got to live with the repercussions of your actions. But in this big age of 2025, people are using the child adoption agencies to make sure that these kids don't have a good home.
They also allegedly treat their foster and adopted children differently in terms of food. She reported that if there wasn't enough food, the foster and adopted children in the home wouldn't get any food. After the children were removed from the home and in the following interviews, one of the 14-year-old boys said during a therapy session that he sometimes was caged in his bunk bed at the home as punishment. And in a follow-up interview with the sheriff's office, the boy alleged a routine where his parents would use a piece of plywood to cover up the only entrance of the bottom tier of his 3-tiered bunk bed, often making him wait until the morning before he could use the bathroom if he had to. Straight from the arrest warrant, the 14-year-old boy reported that his mother occasionally asked him to scoot out of his bed and lie on the floor, during which she pressed a plywood sheet onto his chest and back as a form of punishment, resulting in splinters that caused injury. The boy lifted his shirt and pointed to several scars from the punishment. He then explained that on one occasion, when he was banged on the plywood to release, or when he banged on it to be released, his mother unscrewed the plywood, leading him to believe he would be freed. However, she then instructed him to lie back down and press the plywood onto his chest, followed by him having to turn over so she could press it onto his back before securing him back in his bed. He also alleged that he would be sprayed in the face with vinegar as a punishment. The 2 other adopted children who shared the bunk bed, a 9-year-old and 7-year-old, told the same story to investigators, stating that the 14-year-old was confined to his bed most of the day and night and that only was released for lunch and dinner and whenever he wants to play, and sometimes at his brother's request. The adults in the house would allegedly use a green drill to secure the plywood and keep the 14-year-old confined because he had a tendency to steal. Later on, a 14-year-old and 15-year-old girl confirmed the cage-like nature of the bed and how the plywood was affixed with a green drill. The younger girl, however, when asked to justify the confinement, said her brother was being punished because he is too rough for the dogs. So which one was it? The 14-year-old girl also reported being uncertain of her current grade level and indicated that she had not attended school in 6 or 7 years. She went on to tell investigators her mother used vinegar as punishment against her, recounting an incident in which she was sprayed before bed by her mother and how the vinegar burned her eyes, making
That you got to say foster mother because this is not their. Hopefully, it's not their real mother. Because remember, some of the kids were theirs, and the ones who weren't theirs was getting mistreated.
her cry herself to sleep. The 15-year-old girl also confirmed the difference between the adopted and foster children versus the biological children, the provision of cell phones. The older girl said the Griffiths gave cell phones to their biological children, but not to the adopted or foster children. She explained that she's asked for a phone, but her mother said she has to learn to read before she could get a phone. They are all currently being held on a $500,000 bond. And yes, it is believed that not only were these two pieces of shits doing it, but their children were taking part as well.
So yeah. Of course, the children were taking part. That they taught them. That's why it was okay to them. But this is. I hope y'all never get let out. But you know how they think about some of these crimes. Tell me what y'all think in the comments. There's not really that much I could say to it. Piece of shit individuals.